This is an SM Media production. Hi everyone, and welcome to the 21st and final episode of this year's SM Media's Road to Cheltenham. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. I'm joined as always by Calum McClurkin. Calum, after the Martin Pipe, it was kind of getting to that stage where the Blues were already starting, the racing was over, but what a week we had. Brilliant. Just what were your highlights?
Yeah, fantastic week. 28 very good races to watch, real enjoyable. Just a shame there was no crowd there to really enjoy it. Barrel load of highlights, I think. Some spills as well, but it was all brilliant. Roller coaster of a week, as it always is.
Definitely. We will go straight into a few questions, then we'll have a look at our anti-post recap for the festival. First one is, after a 23-5 drubbing, what can be done to fix the racing in the UK after an Irish dominance? It's been one that's been probably, I think we expected Ireland to win a lot of the races, but I don't think we expected it to be 23-5 and them to be as dominant in every race as they were.
No, I had 20, maybe 21. Something like that would probably be the ballpark figure. It doesn't seem to be a quick fix for this.
No.
I think Ireland have the better horses, the better trainers, the better rider, and the better sourcing of horses.
And better prize money, I think.
And better prize money is a massive asset for them, because even British-based owners are tending to send their best horses over there purely because of that. It's a really tough thing to address. Maybe the calendar isn't ideal for us either. Maybe there's too many poorly run graded races. I think a big example of it was Saturday after Cheltenham. The first race at Kempton was a walkover. It was a Class 2 event.
Mm-hmm.
That's problematic, and I think British racing needs to look at what it wants from its national hunt game. Does it want quantity or quality? At the moment, it seems to be quantity. Are there too much focus on the handicaps? Therefore, a lot of your horses are badly handicapped when they meet the Irish horses, because it wasn't just, you couldn't label accusation of, oh, it's just the big owners, it's the big yards that are doing it. It was left, right, and centre. All these Irish horses were winning. Trainers that would be relatively unknown over here, horses well in. Winning the 80-1, Jeff Kidder won. Heaven Help has won from the front of the Coral Cup.
Yeah.
Left, right, and centre. They were coming in. Belfast Banter was another one, wasn't it? So, yeah, I think you need a deep root and branch review into what you really want from the national hunt game at the moment, because they're miles behind, like it was for Ireland 2 or 3 decades ago. They've upped their game, and now it's up to us to up ours.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I echo everything you just said there. I think as well, prize money is a big thing. One thing I did think about was, like, Ireland, you've got the Dublin Racing Festival a month before the Cheltenham, which is a good trial. It's something like, we didn't have a lot of winners come for the Dublin Racing Festival this year, but it's always a good trial. It's a month before you get to source the best. You see the best horses from Ireland before that. Something like that in the UK, like maybe a January 3 days at Ascot, something like that, like 6 races a day, something like that. A couple of 4 or 5 grade ones, a proper left, maybe even not Ascot, maybe like where there'll be somewhere that you can get a left-handed track, somewhere that can maybe give you a trial festival, basically.
A quality weekend festival. I think Newbury is ideal for that.
Newbury, probably, yeah. Newbury. Betfair Hurdle Week, yeah.
Chase Day, Betfair Hurdle weekend would be ideal.
Yeah.
Just make that kind of a bigger and better thing, because you've got Kempton at Christmas, which is pretty good in its own. Sandown, Ascot, those 3 though are all right-handed tracks.
Yeah.
Newbury's kind of a stiff kind of Leopardstown-esque kind of left-handed stamina test, stiff fences. Probably suit for a festival build-up, but yeah, they do need a wee look at the calendar. But you also can't forget the grassroots of the national hunt game here either. Improve the point-to-point scene, give more support to lesser tracks, so we can widen the net and source better horses.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. But that's what I would think maybe as a good solution. But what was your ride of the festival this year? I've got two, but I'll pass on to you first before I give my two.
Mount Ida and the Kinmure by Jack Kennedy, without a
Yeah,
shadow
that's
of a
one of
doubt.
them. Yeah,
Could have been pulled up inside 1.5 miles. It was jumping right. Looked well beaten. Traded a 999 to 1 in Betfair, and he still won quite easily. Actually, to be honest, and had plenty left in running. That was some ride. Definitely one of the ride of the weeks. Barry Garrett and Sarah de Berlay was good. I think that was even better over fences. Over the years, so yeah, that was an excellent ride.
Yeah, Mount Ida's one of mine. My other one's Allaho and the Ryanair. I just thought it was an unbelievable ride for Rachel Blackmore. Just knew what she was sitting on. I think it was just tremendous. I think you'd probably pick about 4 or 5 Rachel Blackmore rides that were just unbelievable. But I was mesmerised by Allaho, and I didn't think I would say that last week because I didn't fancy him at all in the lead up to the race. But it was just took me back. But brilliant. Jack Kennedy was unbelievable on Mount Ida because. Well, I was looking at, we sat in the Betfair Exchange and we looked, and there was somebody actually laid it, and somebody laid it at 1 to 1,000, didn't they? Like,
you thought you were having a bad day. At least you didn't lay a 1 to 1,000 shot.
Exactly, but there we go. It's what a ride with Jack Kennedy, Rachel Blackmore as well. We'll touch on her a bit later on. But final question: does the lack of entries rule out a 5-day festival going forward? I think the problem this year was, I think, it's because Fairyhouse is so close. And I think COVID's obviously the big thing, but Fairyhouse is only, 2 weeks away? I think a lot of horses that would usually come to Cheltenham are going there. And I don't think it rules out a 5-day festival. I think we're going to get it eventually. But
yeah, there's an air of inevitability about a 5-day festival, isn't there?
Oh, without a doubt.
I think the entry system, I think COVID's probably just had a massive impact on it. I think it's a bit of a freak year. A lot of handicaps didn't fill out. There might be an argument to look at restrictions for novices going into instead of Supreme. I mean, eight runners on a Supreme 7 in the Ballamore really is particularly unusual. Maybe there should be a kind of at least a 3-run limit to get a mark to qualify for handicaps. Officially, instead of this kind of guesswork. I mean, Gentle Demi was a prime example of just winning a maiden, getting a mark that he thinks right, and just being far too keen in a Martin Pipe and bombing out his favourite when he should have really stuck with novices in novice company, to be honest. And then you'd have found out what was going on there.
Yeah.
And the more novices you run in these events, the bigger the field and the more likely some of them are to settle, and the more likely they are to fulfil their potential as well.
Yeah.
Even with the COVID and Brexit as well for the Irish, they still came over here and dominated quite markedly, even though they had a lot more obstacles to kind of deal with. I think a couple of the form of the British yards as well. I think Nicky Henderson had a hard season trying to get his best horses fit. I think Dan Skelton and Paul Nicholls like to target Aintree more than Cheltenham. I think that's also had an impact as well. But yeah, I think 5 days is probably inevitable, and not in the immediate future. I think probably a decade or a good decade away yet.
It will happen. It will happen. Just a question of when and where. But I think as well, like seeing the novice, if we had the novice handicap this year, I think it would have attracted some really good horses to that this year. That potentially ran like that could have been probably a really good race this year if we had that at the festival.
It could have been. I think it's running at Sandown, wasn't it? And it really wasn't quite the same. I don't think that was running at the same amount of horses as that handicap did in the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe introduce a novice handicap hurdle.
I still think there's grounds. I know this year wasn't a good example of it, but I still think there's grounds for a 2 mile 4 championship hurdle race. Maybe throw it in with the Ryanair. I'm actually kind of keen to write a wee piece on how to make that work, but I think 3 days. I think there's a lot of horses there that probably shouldn't be there, quality wise. But
yeah, there could be, and again, that's what does British racing want in the future? Does it want quality or quantity? If it's quantity, you're going to dilute the quality even further by going 5 days, which is a bad idea. Maybe you should reduce it and go back to 3. From a selfish punter's perspective, it's hard enough monitoring all these new races and new tracks and new times. The Grand Annual's back in the old course here. I think punters would quite like it. Just stick with what you've got for a few years.
Yeah.
get us adjusting and give us a chance, because from an anti-post perspective, getting horses even there on the track to give a run for your money was quite a decent achievement this year, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And if it makes it 5 days and you put in more races, how on earth are you supposed to pick it out, even if you think you're in the right lines?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
It might be worse in the long term.
Definitely. But that was our questions for this week. We're going to take a look at our anti-post recap. So we've done anti-post picks every week, and I'm just going to go through a few of mine that were successful. Bob Ollinger 16-1 to win any race, and I was off my seat, jumping, wanting that horse to win. Brilliant result for me there. Honeysuckle 3-1 to win any race. Galvin 5-1 National Hunt Chase, and on a couple more. Appreciate it was 5-2 to win the Supreme, and Calixios 10-1 that won the Triumph. Some mishaps for Callum. Envoy Alen, Shishkin double. Obviously, we thought we were off to a flyer with Shishkin. Fell. Envoy Alen obviously fell. We'll touch on that later on. But anti-post, I think you had a few that were really close. Abacadabras obviously fell. Midnight Shadow pull out, yeah?
Yeah, pulled out just before the 40-hour decks.
But there's a few, and we'll chat. But some good ones for me. Callum really unlucky with some of his. Planet Attack obviously fell as well. Chacun Persois, Zanza and the Grand Daniel, Fury Road. Billaway was second. How did Billaway get beat? I don't know. But we're going to look at the recap. We're going to recap every single race over the 4 days, and we'll start off with the big race in day one, the Champion Hurdle. Honeysuckle, just what a performance. Just go through the race and just tell us how impressive was she.
Yeah, as good as the Irish Champion Hurdle, wasn't it? It was a carbon copy ride. Rachel Blackmore get to the bend and then kick for home. Nothing could live with it. Fantastic performance. She really is still on the upgrade. Yeah, she could probably win a couple of these yet, you'd imagine. Devastating performance. Then 10 Gallop. Probably took the speed edge off Epitone, I think
she did, yeah.
Goshen was at his loony best. He was so warm at the start that it was an obvious place to lay. I mean, his price kind of held up, which was the unbelievable thing. You just knew he was going to bomb out and do something mad. It was when they showed him at that in the training obstacle at the start, he was sweating as if he was sitting on top of the sun. I mean, it was absolutely mad how warm he was getting. That was a sign that he was edgy and a sign that it's not for him. Cheltenham might not be for him either, but I just think he's a complete Marmite horse. He's either going to be sensational or he's just going to throw his toys at the pram.
I think he's right. Yeah, he's suited to right-handed as well, but Honeysuckle's just amazing. Abacadabra's obviously fell, and again, just another kind of. I think Abacadabras was travelling quite. I know it jumped poorly pretty early on, but you couldn't. Sharjah ran a great race as well, but I think Abacadabras as well was just unlucky the way it fell. Yeah,
it happens in racing, doesn't it? You're going to get the odd tumble here and there. Through a line of where Aspire Tower finished, he was fourth. He ran a really good race, and Sharjah, who was second, he would have probably finished near abouts there. Maybe would have got second, but I mean, I don't think anyone would have got close to Honeysuckle that day. That's how good she was. No. You know, hits the line hard, can stay a little bit further, but she's shown that she can really handle a true World Championship pace in any size of field. I mean, her versatility is her main asset as well.
What do you think about her going forward, though? I know
I've got. Do
you think so?
Hurdle, definitely. You cannot send it over fences. She's far too valuable as a mare. Far too valuable. It's not worth risking. Keep her over hurdles. Keep her over 2 miles. Champion hurdle. An Irish champion hurdle.
I would love to see her go over fences. Now, no. I know that I agree with you. I don't think she will. I know the talk. I think the school are three times a week over fences or something. Kenny Alexander is desperate to send this horse over fences, but I hope he doesn't. But if he did, then I think she would be. It would show. I think she would be better over fences. I think she didn't. She's just so good. I just love her.
Don't do it, Kenny. Don't do it. Money talks.
I know, but just the way he was talking. I think he was in RUK the other day and he was talking about it. He seemed as if he wanted to. We'll move on. But we'll move on to the Supreme. This is a horse that will go over fences next year. You didn't appreciate it in the preview night we did. Obviously, we'll touch on that a bit later on as well. But he absolutely bolted up. What a performance. What a start for us punters as well. Were you surprised at how easy it was for him?
And not really by the end of it, because the opposition fell by the wayside. He had a bit of ground, the softest ground all week in the opener. Everything kind of came to his equation, but can't crap out the way he did it at all. He was sublime. This is a 3 mile pointer who's 7. He shouldn't be doing this.
No.
On paper, over 2 miles, over hurdles as well. That was just a frightening performance. He just gallops everything into submission. He is his high cruising speed is unbelievable. The time was really exceptional.
Yeah, it was,
I was gutted
unbelievable time.
I just didn't think he was a bet because he was odds on. His profile doesn't tick any of these boxes, and I had Blue Lord, who fell at the last for the obvious each way thievery play, which was foiled. I thought that was going to be a side of this could be a long week ahead. If that kind of nonsense continues all the time. But I mean, he just keeps defying what you kind of think of him, and it's kind of stupid now to keep taking him on, really.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, just everything about him. Wearing that, I think he will go over fences. Do you keep him at 2 miles or do you move him up and trap?
He could be a Gold Cup horse. I mean, his point-to-point background suggests Gold Cup horse, but right now he could be a champion hurdler. They'll definitely go over fences with him. I think he'll probably start mapping it out, the Arkle route, stay to 2 miles till he gets beat, and then he'll step him up and trip.
I think that could. I think he could be probably maybe even Marsh or maybe Brown Advisory horse going forward. But just a brilliant performance. The Arkle, we saw Shishkin win. It was quite a funny race, but Shishkin was just outstanding again. Just pounded him into submission. I was quite surprised at the captain Rachel Blackmore sending Captain Guinness for the lead. I thought that did put off All Mankind, but Shishkin just breezed past. Brilliant performance by Shishkin. What was your thoughts on the race?
He was magnificent again. The time was really smart, better than the champion chase, even though they probably did go a truer pace, but he wasn't stopping it. He wasn't sitting miles away for the pace. It wasn't quite the St Calvados Petit Mouchoir footpad pace collapse of a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Even though the front runners did kind of tail off, but it wasn't as dramatic as that. He's good. I think he's more straightforward than Altior, potentially.
Yeah.
Bit of a hybrid of Sprinter and Altior as well. He was very good. The absence of Energamino does leave a bit of a doubt in your mind of the true 100% value in the form. I think he would have beaten him anyway. Said that from the start. The evidence of the time, the way the race panned out suggests that he probably would have done enough to win.
Yeah,
given a few of Willie Mullins' horses that ran quite well, that were actually awesome in the Dublin Racing Festival, maybe had their edge taken off them a little bit.
Yeah, I think that as well. Just terrific performance. I think it was leaps and bounds clear. Just jumped well. Brilliant performance. But we'll move on to the mares hurdle, and this was a sore one for me. Concertista was beat on the line to do my charity bet, to do probably my accumulators in that first day. Black Tears though was really good. Probably the better steer, just won the race, and I think that's probably what happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, terrific ride from Jack Kennedy.
Yeah.
Concertista dealt with a market rival and Roxana up the running quite easily, and then Black Tears came and collared her. Simple as that. Cheltenham form comes to the table. Just being effective around course and distance. And Black Tears was the obvious one to take advantage of. As an each way cover, I was quite pleased. But yeah, you'd expect Concertista to win. She had this kind of progressive profile coming into it. She didn't jump too fluently on occasions.
No.
Wasn't notable. I thought she was the likely winner until that hill can change things so much, and Black Tears just handled it slightly better than the favourite did.
Yeah, it was a sore one, but I think, as you say, Jack Kennedy deserves a bunch of credit for getting that horse up. National Hunt Chase, a terrific bet for me. Galvin, a horse I'd followed all season, brilliant performance. Didn't worry about the soft ground beforehand. I think a lot of the punters did, because I think this next destination was as short as 9-4 at one point. But Galvin jumped really well, just a really good performance on the day. What was your thoughts on the National Hunt Chase?
Really good renewal. The right three came to the fore.
Yeah.
There was even signs by 3-4 o'clock on the opening day, the ground was drying out a little bit. But again, I think Jack Kennedy was superb on him. I think the front two, next destination is Scaria 10, were kind of allowed to knock 7 bells at each other up front slightly. Galvin just tracked them, sneak them in, saying, I've got an extra here that you don't have, and I'll just sneak this up the hill. And that's what happened, and he drifted out to a reasonable price of 72. You know, when he's been 5 or 6 to 1 all season. You could have got 72 in the day.
It was really good. I did get a wee recovery back for Galvin after the Concertista mishaps. I'm probably the horse I was, apart from Bob Ollinger, the horse I was glad to see win more than anything. We'll move on to the 2 handicaps on the first day. The Ultima, you were so unlucky with Happy Go Lucky, but Vintage Clouds won at the 5th time of asking in this race. Terrific for Sue Smith and Ryan Mania, but what was your thoughts on it?
Delighted. Oh, it was a brilliant one too. I mean, you're viewing a race when all the information comes on the day can really change it. I mean, I always look at an anti-post because it's your starting point. This is your initial opinion on the race. That now you've got all the facts. What else do you like? And the answer was Vintage Clouds. They put them up 20 to 1 in the morning on the blog. Happy Go Lucky's only novice, kind of, who ticks the profile of this, ran really well, thought he was going to win till he came to the last, and Vintage Clouds just wasn't stopping.
Yeah.
It's a gallant grey that just goes from the front all the time, runs his race. He's been second, he's been third in it, and this time he won it. A bit of a window. His Kelso return was quite good. For Sue Smith and Ryan Mania, it's an excellent result. I mean, Ryan Mania was out of the game for years. Couldn't do the weight, couldn't manage it. Just came back, shocked the world with Aurora's Encore in 2013, the Grand National, and he's got his first Cheltenham Festival winner as well, which is great, because it was only victory for the North. Still getting the board despite Irish dominance and barely having any runners, which isn't too bad. And ran really well in third.
Yeah, I did that. But it was a really good race. I thought it was a Happy Go Lucky. I thought it was really good. I think he will improve. We'll move on to the Boodles, the final handicap on the opening day. The highest price of the day, 80 to 1. No maiden, Sean Flanagan, Jeff Kidder. It was another good race. I thought there was a few horses that disappointed. I thought the likes of Bustleton was poor. Riviere de Tel, who I kind of quite liked at the end up, I thought she was maybe just a bit too flat. But St Sam ran a really good race as well. But Jeff Kidder, what a training performance for No Mead to get this horse up.
Yeah, he jumped a lot notably better. I don't know if it was kind of the big field or the handicap scenario, which suits. It probably just brings out something different in the horse. Sean Flanagan as well. I think that was his first festival winner as well.
Yeah,
he's a really talented, consistent, underrated jockey as well. St Sam I thought was the best horse in the race from the start. He just wasn't well handicapped enough to win. Something unexposed came. Hugh Grey ran quite well in fourth, didn't see it out. A few notable eye catchers, and Bustleton didn't jump well enough, did he? He made a big mistake early on, I think. Shuddered him about 10, 12 places down the pack, and that was him finished. I mean, if you do make a mistake in this kind of race, you lose your position. The juvenile, it's hard to recover. It's kind of game over from that. I think that's why it's probably consistently the most unpredictable race you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And for punters to pick out a winner of it is really hard.
Yeah, definitely. It was a brilliant first day. We'll move on to the Wednesday. We had the Queen Mother Champion Chase and put the kettle on. Gave Henry de Bromhead his second win on this race. Chacun pour soi, it was sore. It was another one. It was another day where just a favourite just done us for a few quid. But put the kettle on. What a horse she is.
Yes, admirable mare, 4 for 4 now at Cheltenham, and a Ken track form. Arkle winners have a good record.
Mm-hmm.
She was overlooked because the Schluer form doesn't look great. The Arkle form doesn't look too strong. That £7 when come up the hill has really helped her win an Arkle and win this.
Mm-hmm.
Jacques Persois came to her, headed her, every opportunity to win the race, and just didn't see it out as well. I think Willie Mullins was convinced that he was just a little bit off it. Like a few of his string wear, it seems absurd for a leading trainer that had 6 winners at the beating in, I think, 7 seconds. But
Yeah.
it was true. I mean, I think there's just a bit of an edge taken off some of them. I think Jacques and Persois might have been another one, but a combination of that and the hill probably caught him out. Newby Negra ran a cracker.
Yeah.
In second. That Kempton form was not a flash in the pan. He was kept fresh for it, and he ran really well. He was really close to winning. Sue Royal was unlucky. He got absolutely wiped out on the rail by Jacques and Persois.
Yeah.
And got Paul Townend a minor ban for that manoeuvre, and he was only beaten 6-7 lengths. The way they all finish in the heat, though, suggests that Shishkin would be quite hard to beat a champion chase, and that he's 74 for the 2022 renewal already.
Yeah.
Would suggest that.
And what do we think about Jacques and Persois going forward? Does he try this again? Or?
Yeah, probably freshen him up a bit. He maybe had a lot of racing. Maybe take a race off him. I don't know. Yeah, it's up in the air. But again, fortunately, I didn't lose too much out of it, because you have to be flexible with your anti-post book. I mean, I was sitting there. Monkfish had won earlier on, and there was a real uneasiness about that victory at 1-4.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's like Paul, the jockey and trainer were talking about, it's just relief. And say, well, if you're going to go in with that attitude with Jacques and Persois, but I'd seen Concertista get beat. I'm just going to switch on it. I realised that I put the kettle on, the ground was coming for her as well on the day, and one was 10-1, and one was it's now getting shorter because obviously Monkfish had won at 4-6. And the flexibility you have in your bets, you have to realign with the market. Sometimes you've got to understand. I mean, I think I had 3 or 4 decent multiples, all hinging on Jacques and Persois at that point. I said, I'm going to take what I've got here and reinvest it. I would put the kettle on, really, because that's the obvious alternative on the day at the time. And you have to be flexible with your bets if your anti-post book allows you to do so. Yeah,
definitely. But it was a terrific performance to put the kettle on. We started off with Ballamore in day 2, and this was a great moment. Bob Ollinger, a horse I tipped up at 16-1, first episode, came in, brilliant performance again, just a terrific ride. I think the Gaillard du Mesnil was probably one of those horses that maybe just did a harder race at the Dublin Racing Festival. And Brave Man's Game, I think, is probably a 3-mile chaser. But Bob Ollinger was just terrific. Just jumped well, travelled well, just a brilliant ride, brilliant horse. Just couldn't be happier with that performance.
Big bad Bob. What a machine. An aeroplane. This guy could win over 2 miles, 3 miles, 2.5, over fences, hurdles, you name it. Just a monstrous performance. The talent that Henry de Bromhead now has, whether he's inherited some or not, I mean, it's unbelievable now. This was incredible performance, because 4 out, I was thinking, she's having to take him back. What are you going to do? You've got to have him serious turn of foot to get out of this. And by the time we were around the bend, it was over.
Mm-hmm.
She nipped down the inside and was away and gone. And don't know if you've seen the picture of Brave Man's Game going in front, full pelt, and then Bob Ollinger alongside. And
yes,
it was cruising along as if he's just like lobbing along in a schooling session, and he hits the line incredibly powerfully, jumped really fluently, so much more probably in the tank. Yeah, I mean, it was just above appreciated. I think for me, it was a top Novice Highland performance by some way.
See, when you're touching on appreciated there, do we have another potential machine in Fairney Hollow who's beaten both?
Yeah, it's a maybe. Yeah, definitely. If Fairney Hollow's mine, I'll maybe try and keep him over hurdles.
Yeah.
I think Chiefly Park might want a champion hurdle runner, get runner and everything else. He'd be the obvious only one for that. yeah, Fairly Hollow could be anything. I think it's because Henry de Bromhead revealed it's because Bob Ollinger get beat by Fairly Hollow is why they went the Ballymore route instead of the Secune route, which shows he's got a lot of pace, which he was evident anyway in that demolition job. But I thought Garda Manil actually ran quite well.
Yeah,
I thought he ran up to his mark. He comprehensively beat Brave Man's Game, and I think he wants 3 miles. He'll improve for a fence as well.
Yeah,
I mean, Brave Man's Game was just he's a decent enough horse, but not in the standard of those two yet. Maybe Chase and will bridge the gap a little bit closer, but it was an ominous sign.
Yeah, it was probably the performance of the week for me. Just terrific. Just I think he will go over fences. I think he's a mass horse. Yeah, we'll move on to the Brown. We'll move on to the Brown Advisory. This was a race that probably had you kind of worried for a bit, but Monkfish did get the job done. 1 to 4. What do we think though? Were you impressed? I take it you weren't as impressed there as you were in Leopardstown in February.
No, you can't be. That wasn't him. I think Patrick Mullins explained it well, and it was like giving an iPhone user a Samsung for the first time. It was just a little bit all out of sync. Yeah, he was going short when Paul Tenney was asking him to go long, and vice versa. It's just his class and intelligence got him out of trouble, and he was really raw. He was looking around everywhere. He didn't really know where he was. Probably wondered where are the crowds or something like that. It was probably an 80% performance, but he beat Fiddle on the Roof, whose form was quite well franked by Next Destination in a National Hunt chase. You know, he still run up to a really good level to win this fairly comfortably. The loose horse didn't help him at all.
No.
A lot went against him, but he was good enough and classy enough to emerge it, and that's what brilliant horses do at the time. That even when they're off form, they can still win.
He's 5 to 1 for the Gold Cup next year. Do you think it's value?
I think it's fair enough. I mean, he's the obvious novice right now to kind of come out and challenge these. To respect Appletard, Manila Indo for sure. Envoy Allen could even go this route. I think they're the 4 that you'd be focusing on at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. We'll move on to the cross country where we saw Tiger Roll win his 5th Cheltenham Festival, Cheltenham Festival, and just basically pound everything in here to submission. Brilliant performance, rolled back the years. Didn't see it coming.
No, neither did I. This is the first race that I really missed a crowd. He deserved a crowd for that.
Yeah.
Five Cheltenham wins back when a lot of people wrote him off. But I mean, the good ground made a massive difference. It was role reversal last year when the heavy ground made Easisland look different class to Tiger Roll. The better ground made Tiger Roll look different class to Easisland. When in truth, it's probably somewhere in between. He's just a clever old horse now, wily old fox. If you give him the conditions that he doesn't like, he just won't go a yard for you because it's not worth it. Like someone in office who's approaching retirement. No, I'm just not doing it anymore. I don't need to do it. I'll do it when my conditions are right, and I'll do it whenever I feel like it. You just love to see him go cross country next year, maybe next year or two if the enthusiasm's there.
Yeah, I mean,
it really is becoming his race.
Yeah, I mean, it was a terrific ride. I mean, Easisland, I thought was, again, just conditions didn't jump well enough as well for me. Do we think though that Tiger Roll could potentially compete in a Grand National? I know he's not going to, but if that Tiger Roll showed up at Aintree, probably would take all the beating. But he's not. He's obviously not going.
Probably, but I mean, he is 11 now, and it's a bit of a quick turnaround. I think they would regret pulling him out.
Yeah, I think that as well.
Because his mark is still seems reasonable, and if he did get spring ground, good grounds, Cheltenham now really is. They could have had a go at it. He would probably have run with credit. I think they were maybe a bit too hasty there in pulling the plug in that.
Yeah, we'll move on to the bumper. This was a race that I was very keen to see what happened here. Sir Gerhard won for Rachel Blackmore. I thought it was another terrific ride with Rachel Blackmore. Kilcroot, I don't want to go. I know Paul Townend's been getting a bit of stick by a couple of people that are friends of the show, and I'm not going to do that. But I just do think that he should have been a bit closer with this horse. That's all I'm going to say on it, because I think if Patrick Mullins is on there, I think Kilcroot wins that, to be honest.
Yeah, he just gave him a bit too much rope.
Yeah,
out front, and I mean, it was a 2-horse race. The market told you that, and he should have been a lot closer to the one in front, which is now a new stablemate as well. Yeah, he would certainly wanted it back. Kilcroot was probably likely marginal winner, even though I thought Sir Gerhard did have a bit left when he came.
Yeah,
I think he could have pulled out more as well, so it might have been more of a battle than people expected.
I still do think
better ride did win the race.
Yeah, I still do think I still think Kilcroot's could be better over 2 miles, and I think Sir Gerhard could go further because he wasn't stopping, and I just think Kilcroot was given a lot to do.
I wouldn't nail either of them down to distances.
Nah, I wouldn't
right now. I mean, I think they were wary of Appreciated last year in the bumper, where if we're out there too soon and too prominent, something could do us from the back. That just didn't happen this year because the two of them were miles above, and there were more experienced jockeys on board, so they actually went quite a slow pace. You normally don't really see the pace stand up to scrutiny in a champion bumper most of the time, but here it did. 3 Stripe Life unshipped to Jack Kennedy at the start and was fractious, and I thought, well, that ticket's gone. There's no way he could possibly run a good race. He ran really well in fourth. He is also a horse to really take out of it.
The horse in third, I think, could be one. Is it LS Bell? Is it
LS Bell? The Skeletons could be another kind of Roxana type. She was a nice mare. She's 14-1 for the Mares Novices hurdle.
Yeah, I think she's one to keep an eye on.
Isn't too bad. Yeah, the front 4 are definitely ones to follow. The 5th as well, Nigel Twiston Davis's horse, pulled really fiercely and still stayed up there for a long way. It's a decent effort. Yeah, I think it's good looking bumper form.
Definitely. We'll move on to the 2 handicaps in day 2. We had another Irish winner with another mare winning. Heaven help us for Paul Hennessy and Richard Condon. Terrific to see them win. What was your thoughts in the race?
Yeah, back to my Leopardstown, where it won, and I do like this horse. I couldn't back it here because I just thought there's no way he's going to get an easy lead over a wee bit further. It's absolutely no way in deeper company, and he did. I don't know what on earth was going on in behind. It really was a bizarre spectacle. It was like watching the Derby this year. I remember when the winner of that was just gifted the lead from the start and never get back to him. Surely someone's going to come out and round the bend. It was over. Just knew it's a wee and gone. I mean, and Richie Condon's a £7 claimer that's never ridden at Cheltenham before. Exactly. And he schooled a lot of them. It was quite something. You fancied
Craig Niche. Do you think he's actually ran a good race considering how much he had to do?
Yeah, he's ran a really good race. He was also short at room all the time. He's been checked quite often. I did think he was the best of the Henderson lot, and he was. He could still go places in the future. He's very lightly raced. But this was a big handicap that was really pinched from the front, and
Botox Hash ran a good race, didn't it?
First off the bridle, wasn't he?
It was a bad mistake.
One of them, isn't it? It happens.
I had a few in handicaps this week. It was the handicaps weren't my strong point of this year's festival.
Great again, Paul Hennessy. I mean, he's more renowned in Ireland as a greyhound trainer.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is quite something. But yeah, they've pinpointed it quite well. The small stables, and they've had a massive cost of Brexit and COVID to deal with, and nicking these handicaps. Certainly can't begrudge him of it at all.
Definitely, but we'll move on to the Grand Annual, and this is a race that I just didn't have a view in at all. But Sky Pirate was 5-1 in February, right? And if you'd said to us then it was going to go off 16-1 and win, we would have said 16-1 and running the race, we would have bit your hand off to back it. What happened? How's this horse went out to 16-1 and won like that?
What happened was that the 1-2 in the race fell and hampered each other.
I was keen to get,
That's what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Zanza backer, you know, that happens in races. You can get hampered, you can get wiped out, you can accept it. But when your main line in is through Sky Pirate and Iblio and being a stone and a half better off with both, and they end up finishing first and third, and Iblio had a horrible passage as well.
Yeah.
He would have fought out the finish, Sky Pirate. You have to think, well, Zanza was well in, and he probably would have been up there with a clear run. And Bitter would have probably ran close to Intukas as well.
I came down and Intukas. I did.
Yeah, it was a criticism for that ride as well, wasn't it? Just way too much to do, give Sky Pirate a bit too much rope. He's been a transformed figure going back to 2 miles, and 152 was still ended up within his compass. Zanzibar one was quite painful. I mean, the Grand Annual is a history of doing this to me. I mean, when Bundoran was cantering all over 61 short Crockle Bay, still get beat. I mean, the results and luck I've had in that race is not good historically.
Nah.
It happens, and you move on, like all jockeys and trainers do. You know, punters have to do the same.
Definitely. We'll move on to day 3, where the Stairs Hurdle. Flooring Porter was a horse we both were quite keen on in this race, and certainly proved. I thought it was a terrific ride. Feel for Johnny Moore a wee bit. I'm not going to lie, but I feel for him a lot actually, because he did the same in the Bartlett. But terrific ride from Danny Mullins. Just a great performance here.
Yeah, clever. Really canny ride from the front. You know, those kind of got small breathers in here and there. He just wasn't for catching 3 out. Paisley Park briefly came and threatened. He was then third. He's ran his mark. He's ran an honourable race. Saturday Belly as well came alive at Cheltenham. They've just had to give second best to the younger, fresher, unexposed horse.
Yeah,
and that was Flooring Porter, who was 7-1. Then went out to 12s. And the Boss's Oscar ran really well in the Pertomps, and his price still didn't come in.
What about Fury Road? What was it? There was a massive gamble in Fury Road before the start of the race.
Yeah, 20-1 at the start. Anti-post, and he goes off 72. He was hampered from the start, though.
Yeah.
The horrible trip. Jack Kennedy said that he wasn't happy with him. And I thought that was harsh, because he did really well to get into it. He got badly hampered by, I think, Sam Spinner fell. He really did. Or Listigar Oscar. He just did a horrible trip. He was forced out wide as well. It's just a season that's just not gone quite right for him. I'd expect him to go over fences.
I think he'll go over fences, yeah. But again, terrific ride for Flooring Porter. Gavin Cromwell, another terrific winner for him. Ryanair, we saw, my mind, one of the performances of the week. What a performance from Allaho. I doubted him. I just doubt, was he going to jump well enough? He jumped well enough and travelled superbly. Makes me a wee bit annoyed that he didn't go for the Mars last year, because I was advocating for him to do so. But just terrific. Just what a horse this is.
Sensational performance, particularly as a false start. He went quite a long way at the start, and he almost reached the first. To be told back, bring back, you think, oh well, can't go out and jump all, make all now, can you? But he did, and he showed the early ton of speed that was my doubt about him. His early speed to beat off Min. You try to go to his credit, to beat off Imperial Aura. Mr. Fisher wanting to be prominent, and too much pace for him. Mellon as well, too much speed for him, and winning the pace battle. Even though I landed on the wrong one in Mellon, winning the pace battle at Ryanair is the key to victory.
Yeah.
And Allaho did it. I mean, with some breathtaking performances. It was Vautour-like.
It was.
In its nature, undersold as well. It was top class.
See, going forward, I know Wally Mullins has mentioned that Champion Chase could be an option. Do you think that's potentially where they're going to go here?
No, the problem with the Ryanair is it's the Ryanair. It's not got the luster of the Champion Chase or a Gold Cup, but it is intermediate trip, and he is an intermediate trip horse. He'll come back for this next year, I think. He was mooting the King George beforehand. Then the next day he was thinking champion chase. That normally tells you that he's a 2.5 mile.
I think I don't think he would beat Shishkin. I think he probably should. 3 miles round Kempton would probably be ideal. I think that's where he would get 3 miles.
Stay.
I think he'll probably stay around Kempton.
No, but everyone says that about Kempton. They don't. It's still 3 miles. I mean, it happens all the time. Footpad's a perfect example.
Aye, I don't think Footpad would stay 2.5.
Did in France.
That will still be to this day one of my biggest arguments for why did Willie Mullins not run Min in the Ryanair and Footpad the champion chase that year? Min would have, the year Frodon won it, Min would have strolled the Ryanair that year.
Yeah, I don't think Footpad was ever quite the same since his Apple
win. No,
that was the problem. The problem was keeping him sound.
But Allaho was terrific, just a terrific performance. And a horse to follow going forward. The Marsh, we thought we were going to get off to a flyer with Envoy Allen. We had a sad fall at the third. The horse fell. Just a gutting start to the Thursday. But what do we think going forward with Envoy Allen? Do we think though there was something wrong beforehand? Because there was questions after something wasn't right. Something was up.
I'm not sure. I think he was a bit buzzy beforehand, which is not like him. He did it last year in the Ballymore. He was a little bit on his toes, but when you watch him in Ireland, he seems incredibly relaxed. It was something about Cheltenham that just flicks a switch in him. I don't know. Maybe he was taking too many liberties. Maybe he came in a little bit too light in experience. It's all been a little bit too easy for him, and he's been caught out by an early mistake. It might be the best thing that could possibly happen to him in the long term. It's just an obviously fall.
Yeah, but you picked Chantry House to be best of the rest, and you were proven right. He won at 9-1 for Nicky Henderson and Nico de Boinville. Fuzel Raffles and the Steering for Longe were second and third. I thought there was a point in this race of Steering for Longe was going to win.
Nah, he's a head case for Longe. He's just he travelled into it in Leopardstown, didn't he? And he just didn't find anything. And he did the same here. Yeah, I thought the Henderson pair were the threat. The 1-2 looked obvious that they would get the pieces. Fusil Raffles ran a blinding race. An absolute superb race. Jumped really neatly. Drying ground really suited him. He likes that trip. Chantry House is just getting better and better all the time. The supreme form from last year is working out brilliantly. Even Heaven Help was winning the Coral Cup off it as well, and he was 7th. She was 7th. It was a very good performance. And I don't know, because Envoy Allen fell, a lot of people are going to knock Chantry House. He is getting better. He's not going to be a million miles away in open company next season either. They tweaked his back, and it's worked wonders for his jumping. He's a lot more compact. He looks stronger. He's better through the air. It was another important but rare winner for the Brits as well in the day. As for Envoy Allen, where do you go with him? Probably go to Fairy House. Maybe.
Yeah, I think the talk of Fairy House against latest exhibition.
Latest exhibition stays at home to dodge monkfish and now has to run against Envoy Allen, which is unlucky on their part. What you do next season? Is it new stable with Henry de Bromhead? I'd be very keen to run this horse in the King George.
Yeah, I think that's what I think what's going to happen here is Envoy Allen goes to Down Royal for the champion chase, and Monkfish probably goes for the Savills at Christmas.
Maybe. Yeah.
And I think Envoy Allen goes King George.
It's quite hard to split them. I mean, if Allaho doesn't go there, then he'll probably have one Chiefly Park representative this time, I'd imagine, with hopefully everything being COVID restriction free. I would like to see Envoy Allen race in Britain again before Cheltenham to get a definitive answer of what is travelling really the thing that kind of buzzes him up a little bit.
And it was the only horse that changed stables that obviously had a difficult run.
Yeah, I don't think it's down to that.
No, I don't think that either.
I just think maybe he's just said it's so easy this season that he was actually running at a bit of a pace and surrounded by horses as well. he would probably have got into a rhythm in another fence or two's time, and he'd probably have got it right. Like Monkfish, who was slightly off, but he got away with it, and Envoy Allen didn't.
Yeah, definitely. We'll move on to the next few races, which can only be described as the Kevin Blake trio. What a tipping performance that was. But we'll start off with the Mares Novice. Tell Me Something Girl for Rachel Blackmore and Henry de Bromhead was a massive gamble. It was 14s into 4s at one point. Just another really good ride by Rachel Blackmore and another terrific win.
Yeah, there's some gambles that you don't really pay heed to, but there is with some that are significant. In an open race, I thought looked quite ornery in form. You can throw a blanket over most of these. You're looking for which one would get supported. When there's gambles in these Mares Novices, which you don't know quite a lot about, when juveniles, triumphs, bumpers, it is quite significant. Rachel Blackmore was excellent on her. I mean, Connections tried to make all with Manila Melody, who was quite well fancied. She went off favourite from the front, got beat. You need to stay in this race. I've stressed it before. You do need a bit of stamina, and came from the back, picked them off easily enough, and sought out best. It was a very stylish performance. Cool and composed, really well polished, and nothing was for catching her. Our stablemate Magic Days pulled really hard and did really well to finish second. Glens of Antrim disappointed me a little bit. It was a bit underwhelming. He probably didn't quite pace for it.
I thought Hook Up as well. Like Hook Up was just...
Hook Up doesn't jump well enough.
Nah.
Would never stay. I didn't really see the appeal of her. Royal Kahala and Royal Kahala didn't like the ground, I don't think. And Rosie's Hollow didn't either. It just did highlight that Mares form. The Mares Novices form. Galway as well went out quite tamely. The Mares versus Mares form wasn't quite good, and it was a handicap route instead of the graded company against the boys, which was the prevailing form line for Tell Me Something Girl.
Definitely, but we'll move on to the Pertemps. It was a great performance from Brian Cooper and Paul Nolan. The only horse Paul Nolan sent over was Mrs. Milner, 12-1, very good performance. The Boss's Oscar, I know we're both kind of looking at the start of the race, and just Mrs. Milner was just brilliant. Another mare, another terrific performance.
Yeah, I mean, Pierre Thompson's not notoriously trapping. I had 3 or 4. Fortunately, she was one of them. And unfortunately, it was 33-1 as well. Because when I was watching that preview night with Kevin Blake, I think he's got a 33-1 map. And I had a short list of 2 horses that I liked at 33-1. Mrs. Milner was one of them. So if he was inspiring my confidence, I'd have put more on. Fortunately, I did. She's been a horse to follow all season. Her form behind On the Blind Side has worked out really well at Cheltenham. It's course and distance, rock solid form. It's a very good run. Back to that day, she should have won. Leopardstown, she fell in a race that's worked out quite strongly. She was really well handicapped. It was Paul Nolan's only runner of the meeting. It just all aligned, and like a lot of these Irish handicap efforts this week, they all came in. It was a fantastic performance for sure. The Boss's Oscar was the best horse in the race. Just wasn't well handicapped enough as I suspected. And Champagne Platinum should have ran in the Coral Cup, as I've said all the time in this. He ran really well. He just didn't quite see it.
You were right about Imperial Alcazar.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. No, not for me. He needed a bit softer down as well, I think. But even then, he's just not a horse that I quite liked or didn't understand the hype about, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll move on to the Paddy Power Plate. The shunter for Emmett Mullins and Jordan Gainford justified a massive gamble. I was very unlucky in second with Far Class, but the shunter was really good. Another massive gamble landed in day 3.
Yeah, and the 100 grand bonus for stable staff and Emmett Mullins, which is great stuff. It was just the turnaround from Kelso I thought was too short, really. To back a horse to win that at kind of 9-4. He still probably got a couple of races in him because he still looked well in, because he didn't actually jump too well.
No.
Jordan Gainford showed why he's
He was really good, yeah.
it's why he's highly regarded as a £7 claimer. He also did quite well in the Boss's Oscar as well. I could have done more with him. It was a good week for him. Yeah, he was just too well handicapped for anyone to deal with, and it was a good bit of placement, because I think he's probably overall a better hurdler than a chaser. But this was the easiest race from a handicap perspective for him to go to, and it was the right call from them at Mullins Yard, and they deserve a lot of credit, and I'm sure they'll be celebrating the bonus very, very sensibly and wisely.
Definitely. We'll move on to the final race of Kim. We touched on it earlier. Mount Ida traded 999 to 1 in running, but was again Jack Kennedy. What a ride to get that horse up! Terrific performance. We both settled in plan of attack at the start of this race. What a
start of February for me.
What a sad race. What a sad fall that was.
Yeah, for all Rachel Blackmore's magnificence, this was a bit sore. The judge of pace on him was very good. First time blinkers sparked him into life, better ground, it's mapped out, and 4 out. He just slithers on landing. It's a really unlucky one. Took Rachel Blackmore a wee while to get up, actually. It was a bit of a nastier fall than a lot of people anticipated. You've got to remember that she hit the deck 3 or 4 times during the week, and nothing knocked her at all. Her resolution is fantastic. But maybe Mount Ida still may have beaten him. Who knows? But he was definitely booked for second. The Hold the Note and Shantou Flyer, both honourable horses that placed, but they're going to place. They're not going to win.
Yeah.
So
Hold the Note just frustrates me. I know I did tip him up. I did think he would run a big race. I did think he would bounce here, but just something about him, just he cannot win a race.
No, Shantou Flyer's win rate as well is similar for me. Pen them in, but it's reliable. Like the Ultimate, it's reliable handicap form for the Cheltenham Festival. Yeah,
definitely. We'll move on to the final day, the Friday. The Gold Cup was a big race. Manila Ando bounced for Henry de Bromhead to mark the first. I think it's the first time in a long time hot trainers won the Champion Hurdle, Champion Chasing Gold Cup. Brilliant ride again for Jack Kennedy. What was your thoughts on the Gold Cup?
The first time ever.
Is it the first time ever?
And with 3 different jockeys as well.
Yeah.
Which is quite achievement. It's some trinity. I know everyone was wanting Appletard and Rachel Blackmore or Albion Photo to do history. I really wanted this horse to win. I really wanted Jack Kennedy.
We'll go back to maybe the 4th or 5th episode. We both said this was our fancy for the Gold Cup even then.
It's amazing from the start, and going the road to Cheltenham, and sometimes nothing disputes festival form. Sometimes horses love the track. He was unlucky in the RSA. He was brilliant in the Bartlett, and it's just sparked him into life again. And this Manila Indo ticket, the build up to the race 24 hours beforehand, I was kind of resigned to him probably falling or something, probably struggling. And every time Henry de Bromhead was interviewed, he was talking about Rachel Blackmore, Appletard, but every interview he said, "Don't forget about Manila Indo. Do not forget him. I think he will run a big race." And the market kind of caught on because he was the only one that came in for support. Now Champ drifted ominously.
We'll touch on that in a minute,
when Manila Indo came in, but after 4 fences, after running about the first mile, I thought he was going to win this. I was absolutely convinced for at least since halfway, because if he gets in a rhythm and jumps, Jack Kennedy's the perfect partnership. No Delta Works a fiddly 3-mile chaser.
Yeah.
The rhythm really is important, and he got him into one that's superb. And I think because of Rachel Blackmore being consistently excellent, and is usually the story, Jack Kennedy doesn't get the praise he deserves. I mean, he missed out in Cheltenham last year because he had a broken leg. He's broken his leg 4 times. He's had 3 broken collarbones, and he's only 21 years old.
Yeah.
That is an astonishing resolution to keep going all the time. And he fell in Envoy Island the day before at 4-9. It would have been absolutely crestfallen. I think all of his winners full credit to Rachel Blackmore, but all of our winners were well fancied and won fairly snugly, easily in terms of distance and length. Jack Kennedy had to work so hard for Mount Ida and to time it to perfection in Black Tears. Galvin was a really clever ride, just sitting off the pace, and Manila Indo getting him in a rhythm was sensational. We will miss Barry Geraghty and Ruby Walsh, but Rachel Blackmore and Jack Kennedy are the two that could dominate the sport for a good few years.
Definitely. 3 horses I want to touch on. First of all, Album Photo. What do we think happened? Just beaten by 2 better horses on the day?
Beaten by 2 better younger horses that weren't there 2 years before. It was a better race. Champ
and Santini. Discuss.
Well, Champ did what we all feared Champ would do.
Yeah.
It's the unorthodox preparation for both. It's just caught them out big time. Santini made a big mistake. He was going okay, quite well, I think. Probably was going to run into the frame, maybe 3rd or 4th. 3rd might be a stretch, but certainly maybe the best of the British runners. But that mistake was too significant. That was him, game over. And Champ couldn't get into rhythm. He was just asked. He's asked to do something so much different than before. You know, to bowl out and make all in a 2-mile race is a completely different ask to a 3.25 mile Gold Cup when you're wanting them held up and switch them off. It was too much of an ask for him early on. Couldn't get into rhythm, and it was curtains.
Yeah, definitely. We'll move on to Triumph Hurdle, the first race of the day. Calexios came in, a really good 10-1 pick for me early on in the series. It was a funny race, though. It was a very funny race. I know Calexios is really good, but Zana here, again, another horse that maybe just wasn't right on the day. Tritonic, we both decided we were going to lay him on the day, and Tax for Max, your horse was, again, a bit keen.
Yeah, too keen. Penny didn't drop in time for him. He was entitled to take his chance. He could still improve. He didn't jump as well as he did in his debut either. Maybe he's not a fan of the track too much. They'll look to keep his novice status, I'd imagine, for next season. So he might come into some sort of semblance of form, but I'll certainly monitor him, but maybe from more of a distance this time. Stanley here, I don't think. Normally when you have a minor second wind running from home, but squeezed out, he was too keen early on as well. Suggests that they'll probably look at his wind after this. He's not run up to form. The long absence as well, I don't think saw him since November. Might be a negative now in hindsight. I think there was a history with Triumph winners that you've got to kind of run in Christmas or afterwards, really.
Yeah.
I think you do need a bit of match practice. I think he was off his game. I think there might have been a breathing issue there. I'd expect him to have a wind up next time round. Put the Claws ran well. Adagio ran at his mark. I mean, he's a line to take from the form to judge that. I think it's solid. 1-4-6 form. I think Calexios was very good, very forward, juvenile, smart horse on his day for sure.
Probably Tritonic, just what we thought.
It's form's nowhere near good enough, is it? I mean, nowhere near good enough. The bounce factor as well of Kempton even drifted before the off as well. Like people were starting to cotton on to what was going on there. You can't entirely rule a horse out because he's had an off day here, but he certainly didn't fire. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We'll move on to the Albert Bartlett Vanillier for Gavin Cromwell. Another winner for Gavin Cromwell. Magnificent performance. Poor race, but in behind, I thought. But I know Vanillier was really good, but I thought it was a poor race.
Yeah, I was ready to over the last when they're all bunching up with each other, and you're thinking, no, you slate this form, and then Vanillier powers away, wins by 11 lengths. And he's probably a chaser as well in the making. A serious performance. So he hit
he was really good. I just thought in behind was very poor.
It's a bit muddling in behind. A lot of them didn't see it out as well as he'd expected. Fakira being one.
Yeah, I thought
Fakira travelled right into it. Almost took the lead, and then faded tamely, which is really strange for a horse that was seen out his races better than at any point. You'd have thought he'd be the strongest finisher out the lot. Streets of Doyen ran well, just a bit of recent rain on Friday. I don't think it was ideal for him. He finished off as well as anything. There's a couple in behind that are improving at different rates. Statler probably over a fence. Didn't get the neatest of runs. Did the favourite. But Vanilla, he was unstoppable on the day. Gavin Cromwell's turned his form around big time from last time when Leopoldston, his string weren't running too well. At the Dublin Racing Festival, and Willie Mullins was on absolute fire everywhere. It just turns around the form. It also shows that it's dangerous to take certain pieces of form literally. They might peak if a horse is put in a really sensational performance at Leopoldston. Sometimes you've got to be mindful that it's quite hard to replicate. Yeah,
definitely. I thought it was a really good performance from Vanillier. But we'll move on to the Mayor's Chase, the new race of the festival. Colreevy, we didn't fancy for ground and left-handness. We didn't fancy it at all. Good performance. Ellie May was second. I know you really fancied Ellie May. What was your thoughts on the new Mayor's Chase?
Well, Ellie May should have won. Given a half-decent ride, it certainly would have. Anyone looking at the form knows that Colreevy's only threat. She jumps right, and she stays. So don't go upside her and engage in a massive battle from about a mile out.
Yeah,
it was tactically senseless stuff. Senseless stuff. It really was. I mean, Ellie May is losing like a length at every fence because she's been jumped into by the market rival. She still only gets beat half a length as well. And it's a sustained duel with a runner-up like side by side for 4 or 5 fences. How on earth you don't take a pull and just go at the rail and concede a length? I mean, you cannot engage in that battle. I didn't understand it at all. No, it was. They're both 61 next year, and I would back Ellie May again at prices at the moment because I don't really see anything younger or a novice kind of coming through unless Willie Mullins is Honeysuckle. Do not go over fences, please. She's too valuable. She's too important. Keep her over timber. Please, 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 please. Something might happen. It's not worth the risk. It's just not. Ellie May was. I think Ellie May is probably the best horse in the race. She was outstayed, and tactically she wasn't seen to best effect.
It was a strange ride. I don't like criticising jockeys for riding horses because I'm the last person that should criticise jockeys. But it just was weird how every fence you were thinking the ground that Ellie May's lost there because of that jump.
Not that. I mean, I don't want to criticise jockeys because I know I can't do it. But you do have an obvious tactical angle into a race, and that is an obvious tactical angle in the race that you should be considering.
Yeah,
you should not be in that position. I mean, it's like being when Mark Walter was on Elixir Danny, wasn't he? And when a Stephen Forlonge jumped to the right of, and everyone knows Stephen Forlonge is going to jump right. That's not the position you want to be in. Like no one was out right to Goshen well in the Champion Hurdle either, because he's going to jump out right and there's a chance of him running out. So why would he be in that position? If you're a left-handed track, you should know what horses have a tendency to jump out right and don't be in that position. Yeah,
it was just strange. But Colreevy, I do think Colreevy did deserve to win. I do think it was a good. No.
She should have won by 3 lengths.
The only thing that worried me about Ellie May was that it was just
stamina and going in the battle and being to the right of Colreevy. So it's only 2 things that could beat her.
Aye,
that's what it turned out to be, and the whole form was brilliant in behind.
Yeah, it was just a strange one. It was just a strange one.
One of those things that happened today. It just went against her for a couple of reasons. A lot of them, to my mind, were probably avoidable, but it can happen. He felt like it had to go stride for stride. Colreevy wasn't going away.
It's one of those.
It's been and gone.
Yeah, we'll move on to the Hunter's Chase, where a horse that I thought jumped real better than probably he's ever jumped before, Billoway, just get pipped on the line by Paul Lockbay from Will Biddick and Lockie Williams. What was your thoughts? Because I know you were screaming you were on the Billoway train from very early on. Just what happened, do you think?
Unfortunately, I had Porlock Bay on the day as well.
Nice colour.
He was the one. Him and Shammeron were the two that I quite liked at a price on the day. So it wasn't too painful. I had that big lucky 15 the start of the season, which Manilindo came in for a rescue. So I wasn't too bothered by this point. I wasn't even bothered by Ellie Bay too much. Yeah, I mean, Porlock Bay is just a good traveller. He's a really good traveller. And Billaway's probably the marginal better stayer. He jumped really well. You just knew he was going to be mapped out for it. And you knew he would run his best race of the season here. It just wasn't quite enough against a good traveller that jumped probably a little bit better. I think the jump at the last made all the difference. Gave Porlock Bay an extra length. And Billaway was kind of, wasn't bad at it, he was just a bit more modern, just a bit safer. And Polton tried to get him up. It just wasn't quite to be in the line. But it was a very good race to watch, actually.
Yeah, I did enjoy it.
If there were amateurs on board, you'd imagine Billaway would have won. Lorcan Williams was excellent on.
Yeah, it was a terrific ride.
Sure.
Yeah, terrific ride. We'll move on to the county hurdle. 2 more races to go. Belfast Bantam at 33-1 for Peter Fahey and Kevin Sexton. Didn't even see that. Didn't see that horse winning at all. Didn't have him on my radar or anything. A few horses in behind disappointed that I'm keen to get your thoughts on, but it was a good ride with Kevin Sexton to get this horse won.
Fantastic ride, yeah. There's a couple of questionable ones. I mean, third time lucky kick for home way too soon. Harry Skelton, I think, was guilty of that quite often, particularly in Shan Blue. In the Marsh. It just tends to happen. Sometimes you can just misjudge the pace a little bit. Yeah, he just cut through them quite well. I actually quite like this horse, but I thought the ground had gone against him. Then I didn't realise there was a bit of rain on Friday, which might have helped him a little bit. He was a big price. Claire de Boeuf, who I quite liked long term, was really unlucky in this as well. He was squeezed out by third time lucky up the run-in. He didn't get a clear run. He would have been able to go with a winner. Whether he would have get by, I'm not so sure, but he'd definitely been second.
What about Ganapathy? We touched on him quite a while on the show. I just thought he was just a bit disappointing.
Should have ran the Supreme. The experience, he just didn't like the big field experience.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Didn't like the handicap. He travelled really well into it, but he challenged far too wide. You're not going to be 8 wide in a Supreme. You can be 8 wide in a handicap. He's only 5. like Granois in the Coral Cup. Experience, yeah, you can be unexposed and be ahead of your mark, but if you don't have the mental resolution to handle big field handicap, then you won't do anything with it. And that is why I want to see more of them run in novice hurdles races and championship races.
Yeah.
Personally, instead of protecting your mark, and if it doesn't handle it, the Gentleman Demir is another.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. The Martin Pipe was the final race of the week, and Galloping Deschamps, a horse that was Willie Mullins had told us very early on that this horse could be a really, really good horse. I know it's been quite disappointing this season, but won really well under Sean O'Keefe. I thought it was a great performance. Langer Dan, I thought, was quite unlucky as well. Gentleman to me was disappointing, probably just again, as you say, just unexposed and inexperienced. But Galloping Deschamps looks a really, really good horse. Yeah,
he's won this with kind of Gold Cup types, a lot of 3 mile chasers down the line. Galloping Deschamps could be another one. Yeah, he was unexposed. He was one that had a bad run last time out, but in really good form before that. Sometimes you can throw that out and then he's just all of a sudden well in. Yeah, by the time they're all unexposed at the head of the market. They're just too short. So just Leon Cavallo and Mill Green at a massive price, and they had some.
Had Gabinaco
towards the end.
Had Gabinaco.
He was unlucky still in the race, didn't he? He used to call him Fire last year.
But
didn't quite happen for him.
It's always a tough race in Martin Pipe, but good horses usually come to the fore, and it happened here. Galloping Deschamps was really good. We'll just do a couple of wee things. Your best ride and a horse that didn't win at the festival, you think could win at next year's festival?
I'll give check now to make it obvious. Mount Ida's the best ride, and I think Envoy Allen could regain compensation wherever he goes.
Brilliant. I'll stick up Allaho. I think Calixios could win the Arkle next year. one thing about Calexios is I think he's a chaser in the making.
No, he's definitely a chaser.
I think I can see Fairney Hollow, I wouldn't rule out for the champion hurdle, and Honeysuckle for the Mayor's Chase.
No, if Honeysuckle jumps over a fence, it's madness.
They are they will be. I hope they don't. I really hope they don't. And I'm being flippant here, but she could win 3 or 4 champion hurdles. She should have 2 already.
Mayor's Chase is a grade 2 as well, isn't it?
Yeah, she could dominate.
Place in the calendar. I would have had the Mayor's Chase before the Gold Cup on a Friday. I think now without the 2 exciting handicaps, with the Grand Annual not setting last race, it's kind of it's an exciting handicap.
Mm-hmm.
Having a graded race in behind the Gold Cup, I think the Gold Cup should be the last graded race of the week.
Yeah, I think they will change that.
Put the Mayor's Chase in earlier.
I think they will change that, but we'll touch on the thing as well. Obviously, we'd done charity bets in the Cheltenham preview night, the 5 of us. I had Appreciate It and Concertista. I changed from Bob Bollinger for some reason, but I did put up Appreciate It and Concertista. Concertista done a double. You picked Glens of Antrim, so you were unlucky there. Gary Sivs gave us a winner with Honeysuckle and Bob Bollinger double for £105. That is going to the Place to Be mental health charity for a couple of friends of the show. Morgan, Natalie and Sophie are doing a walk for the Place to Be charity, so we're sending the donations there. Really, really good cause. I think it was definitely really good to send it there.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Yeah, hope that all goes well.
Brilliant. We just want to say as well, 21 weeks we've done this together. It's been an excellent thing to do. Really, really enjoyed it, haven't we?
Some journey. Yeah, give me something to do in lockdown
for
the time. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Brilliant. We are potentially going to bring we'll hopefully be back next year. I definitely want to bring this show back next year, but whenever there's big meetings, I imagine we'll be able to do some sort of preview and things like that. We will be keeping involved in horse racing and SM media, but I just want to thank Calum for joining me in this show. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you for the 21 weeks. It's been a privilege.
Yeah, it has.
Definitely. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with us for 21 weeks. Thanks very much for joining us, everyone. We'll see you down the road. Thanks very much. Cheers.